Yo, what up, Asian Not Asian listeners? Our stand-up comedy show, Hack City, is back. This month, we're at Caveat in the Lower East Side in Manhattan. It's on Tuesday, November 23rd. Doors at 6:30. Show is at 7 o'clock. Come through if you're in New York City. And for the first time ever, and for this show only, there's a live stream option. Tickets available in the episode description, in our Instagram bio, and on AsianNotAsianPod.com. See you there.
It's sad because it's this thing you loved, and you're looking at it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the joy thing we were talking about earlier. And you're like, you just don't. It's not that you don't care, you can't care as much.
Yeah.
And that's so hard to face. And welcome back to another episode of Asian Not Asian Podcast, a podcast where two Asian guys not from Asia talk about American issues no American cares about. I'm your host, Fumi Abe.
And I'm Mike Nguyen.
Today is Saturday, October 23rd. We're coming at you live from both coasts, bi-coast. This is a bi-coastal
from both ends.
Podcast.
Both
ends.
We're doing
you
it.
Hear that, Gen Z? You hear that, Gen Z? We're so bi, baby.
Bi-coastal. If you're listening to us on the Apple Podcast app, please leave a review. Hit us 5 stars. We're getting some nice reviews, and we're getting some mean reviews, which is great. And
we did get a mean
We did get
review.
one. We did get one, which, you know what? I don't know if it's fair, but at least you left a review, so thank you very much for that. If you're listening to us on Spotify, then please, hit follow, and so you can always be kept up with the latest podcast shenanigans. And then if you're on YouTube, you know what? You got to do 3 things. You got to hit subscribe, you got to hit like, and then leave a comment. Tell us where you're listening from, because we always love to hear that. We can see some of the demos, but we love hearing about, hey, I'm listening to this from Boise, Idaho, and I'm the only Asian person I've ever seen in my whole life. And we love hearing shit like that. Or if you're calling in from fucking Burbank and there's way too many Asian people, then tell us that too. So yeah, let us know where you're from.
Let us know. And as always, before we start the podcast, we always give a shout out to our newest Patreon subscribers. What is Patreon? It is the best way to support this podcast. We are a completely independent operation. We don't out with a network, so we make money on our own. And the money that you give us through Patreon pays for our studio, our editor, our producers. We might get a social media manager. So it really, really helps. And if you want to make us, if you want to help us make us this our full-time thing, or if you want to see more content, please consider giving us your money, and in return you get rewards like shout-outs, DM slides, bonus episodes. It's a great time. And now we're gonna guess your ethnicity based on your last name. Here we go. God damn, this is hard.
This is a good one.
Liesl or Liesl Liezl Santillan Santillan. If it's 2 L's, it could be Santillan, like
Santillan
Spanish.
could be
Santillan, but Liesl, that's not a Andre. That's, you know what I'm saying.
That's not
Eduardo.
No. If it wasn't Eduardo Santillan, I would have been like, this guy is from Spain. Como tas, like that. I would be hitting them with that. But Liesl, that's like a German name, dude. Like Schliesel.
Oh, but you know what? Well, I think they're close, right? Spain and Germany, like somewhat. I have no idea.
So
are
close.
they close?
I mean, I guess they're both in Europe.
Well, that's the thing is, like, when I look at a European map, I don't know, like, well, how long does it take to drive from Germany to Spain? On the map, it looks like, I don't know, is it like Nevada to Pennsylvania? Is it like that?
I mean, you make a great point. And every time I think about how many wars there were, it's because it was like, it's just like a 20-minute drive to go invade another country. So you're just like, why
Might
not?
Might as well.
So this person is a product of multiple crusades, and this is a German Spanish person. Guten Tag, and how are you, and everything. So thank you for your money. Your euro.
Money.
Yeah.
Your euro. Next we have Kate Gavino, Gavino.
Yo. Not a lot of Asian names lately. This is tight.
I mean, this could be Filipino, but I feel like Gavino sounds more Italian.
No, dude, this is definitely from the Gavino crime family in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, right, Italian. Vino is wine or grape or something like that,
I think so. Kate Gavino.
I think this person is actually half Asian, half Italian.
Yes, this person was, if you look season 3 of The Sopranos, this person is in the background, okay? Kate, you're...
By the way, there was a Vietnamese guy in The Sopranos, you know that?
What? I didn't know that.
He dies, though.
Oh.
Yeah, you should go back. Yeah.
All right. Well...
He dies, though, because of racism.
Because of racism.
Okay. I'm even going to go further to say, I think you're half Japanese, half Italian.
Wow.
I think there's a crime family thing there. I think there's a crime family thing.
That's
happening.
tight. That's tight. That's a good movie right there. I'd watch that.
Meeting of the two families.
Hell yeah.
Okay. Next we have Trang Do.
That's
Trangdo. Is it do or do?
Do. That's good old Vietnamese name, baby. You're like the emperor, dude. That's a good name.
And we always like to cleanse our palate with a nice ass Chinese
good
name.
Old Chinese name.
A good old Chinese name. Ricky Chang.
Ricky Chang, dude. This guy's like a lounge singer. Lounge singer Chinese.
You know, somebody, a comedian friend of mine was running a bit by me the other day, and he was trying to do this bit where the premise is like, I forget the premise was, but the punchline needed to be like, his name is so Asian that XYZ. And he was like, what could it be? And we were like running ideas or whatever. But it's hard to do because I think every Asian name has, or Asian sub has like a different rule. Like Japanese names have a rule, and Korean names have a lot of hyphens, and Chinese names or Vietnamese names are like 2 letters. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's hard to say like Asian names be like this. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking about Ricky Chang. I in a weird way, Ricky Chang is the most Asian name I can think of.
That is the most Asian name. That's like a name that a really Asian person would pick when they came to America and was like, I gotta assimilate. Ricky. Yes. Ricky. You know what I'm saying? Good old Ricky.
And I think that sentiment goes across all Asian ethnicities in America.
Absolutely. This guy's real name is like a real like Chinese name, goes back like, 10 millennia. But when he came to here and he had to get he got his first job and they were like, what's your first name? And he like looked around quickly and he's like, who's my favorite?
He saw Ricky Martin album.
Exactly. He was like, you know what? I love Ricky Martin. That's why I came to this country. Ricky Chang. Boom.
Yeah.
Hell yeah,
my name is Ricky Chang. Living la vida loca.
Living la vida loca. He's CFO of a small bank and he's living his best life. Thanks for the money.
I love it. Thanks for the money, Ricky. Thank you so much. And again, if you want to get in this game, go to patreon.com/Asian.AsianPod and give us your money for us to guess your ethnicity by your last name.
Yeah.
Moving on this podcast, we always like to start with answering the question. We always like to try to define what it means to be Asian American because it's confusing as hell. Our experiences are crazy. And so we always like to start this podcast off by asking each other, what kind of Asian were we this week?
What kind of Asian were you this week?
This week I was a robot Asian. I was a robot Asian, baby. And I know there's been a lot of like documentaries about robot Asians, so I don't want to like get too, I don't want to preach the choir or whatever this phrase is.
Right.
But here's what happened, okay? Another Asian writer on the show where I work, he's been working there for like 4 years, and he decided to leave. He got another job writing for a different TV show. And we had his like goodbye party farewell thing a couple days ago. I guess it was yesterday or 2 days ago, Thursday. And I've done these before. I've worked at companies, comedy or not, where people have left. I've done this before. Mm-hmm. And what was different about this is that a lot of people were crying because he was leaving. Mm-hmm. And here's how not human I am sometimes. Like, here's how much of a robot I am. I am such a robot that when I saw people crying, I had just come back from the bathroom or something, and I knew he was leaving.
Yeah.
I saw people crying, and my first thought was like, oh, I wonder if someone got let go.
Oh,
I wonder if someone got in trouble.
Right.
Because in my mind, I was like, there's just no way in my reality that somebody would cry because somebody left, your coworker left a job. In my mind, that's not possible.
Yeah.
Right? And then I was like, oh, is like Sam crying because of Lawrence?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. They're like, yeah. And I had to pretend like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's like a thing that happens in life, And it made me feel so weird because I was like, it made me ask the question, would people cry if I left? Not at this job specifically, but like any job, like would people cry if you left your job? Like, right. And then if they don't, is that a bad thing? Like, what does that say about me?
Yeah.
Because I've left jobs before but I mean, the first job I ever had, I was with it for like 5.5 years. And like by the end, I was so fucking done. I remember on my last day, this is when Movie Pass was a thing. I just left and I went to go watch Justice League. I just left and went to go see. And when I came back, they're like, "Oh, where were you? We're gonna say bye." And I was like, I wanted to go see a movie, and then I just got my laptop and I fucking left. I yeah, you know, and this guy who left, he's very, very, not only is he funny, but he's a very good person. He checked in on me like on a weekly basis when I first started.
That's cool. He seems like a good guy.
And I heard he did that with other people, so he's a very, very good person, and it just kind of made me feel I don't know if insecure is the word, but I was just like, oh, have I been approaching life the wrong way? Like, should more people be crying if I leave places? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely does. I want to get into this, but do you ever think about like if you died, what people would do at like, I don't know, the reaction would be? Do you know what I'm saying?
If I died, people would cry for sure. I'm not that much of a psychopath. If I died, people would cry. But like, what do you mean? Like, what kind of things people would say about me?
I guess so. I always think about like this is kind of morbid, but like I remember when I was when I was first starting, you know, I was like you know, like following comedians on Twitter, and then like it came out that, you know, this dude in LA, I didn't know who he was. I didn't know, you know, that's not my scene or whatever, but he died, and he died in like a car accident. He was young. He was super young, and he was only been doing comedy for like a couple years. Like 4 or 5 years, but like people were really broken up about it, and then like people would post like little his bits like on Twitter, like just kind of like either videos or like write them out and say them and stuff like that. And I always thought that was like such an interesting thing that, you know, this kid who, you know, he wasn't in any measure like a quote unquote successful comedian, but he had such an impact on people, which I thought was kind of cool. And I always think about that, you know, I'm like, what would happen if you weren't around, or if anyone, you know, if you left, if not you, but anyone. So I think where this job thing is interesting because, I always think about, I think there's a very New York mentality about moving from job to job a lot. You know, and I'm sure in entertainment this is the case. That's what I'm a little curious about. Like, I assume that writers leave all the time, right? People are in and out all the time now.
It's definitely not uncommon,
right?
But I think, I don't know if people cry every time or if it was just him. I mean, he was like one of their favorite writers.
Well,
I do.
How long had he been there for?
4 years.
Okay, so that's kind of a while, and I'm sure he was like a big part of the culture, you right? Like if you could say that there's a certain culture, he's probably forming that. I feel like, you know,
I mean, if you left your job, but you think your day job, do you think people would cry?
No, because we're like agency people, and agency people are like constantly leaving, and I think people would be, you know, they'd be like a little bummed, you know, but as long as it was, and here's the other thing, like, you know, as long as I was going for a good reason, I got another gig somewhere else or whatever. Like people are like, oh, hey man, I'm sorry to see you go, but you know, good luck, whatever. We're all kind of just like Ronin, you know. We all come together. We serve the master for a little bit. We avenge his death, and then we move on to the next thing. You know, we got a lot of young listeners, and I hear a lot of times people talking about the quarter life crisis. I certainly went through one, and I think the quarter life crisis has to do with you transitioning. It's like transitioning into adulthood from being in college, right? And or whatever, like kind of finishing school, and you're starting to realize that the job market and the world is a little indifferent to what you do, and doesn't really care at all. And you're kind of grappling with that, and you're coming to terms with, what do I want to do with my life? Because before this, it was all kind of like laid out as far as like, just go to school, get a job, and then now you're like old enough where you have to think about it. I also think too that there's a one-third life crisis. So like you're in your 30s, you transition into this kind of phase in your life because maybe you figured out what you want to do, but you know that there's some like hiccups that come along the way with that. And Fumi, I think you want to talk about this. And first, I want to hear what you had to say. You know, what are you sort of experiencing?
I mean, that's an interesting way to frame it, as a third crisis, a third life crisis.
Yeah.
I feel that, I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna get this off just the top off.
Just
the
do
top.
it. Just do it.
I don't know if there are any doctors out here. Give me a shout out. I think I'm depressed, and it's crazy because, as much as, hey, we're all about mental health here at this podcast, and like, sure, I'm a open Asian. Yeah. I've done the open relationship thing. I'm like liberal. I of course I believe in depression and mental health stuff, but like I don't think I ever believed in it for myself.
Yeah.
because I just, I'm at the end of the day, I'm an immigrant and I have immigrant parents, and I'm just like, sure, for other people, but for me, I'm doing fine. And I think I was doing fine for a long time.
Sure.
And but just that recently, I think it's a professional transition. It's also I moved across the country. There's something happening to my body, and it's actually very scary. I need to go see a doctor, but I'm like tired all the time.
Yep, there you go.
I'm so tired all the time, and I never used to really be like that. But then on top, what's really scaring me, and this was the big hint, is I don't find many things enjoyable.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it's terrifying.
Yes.
Because I'm including things like stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
That's a thing where I threw my life away for that. I loved it.
You really did.
I mean, at a certain, if you talked to me when I was 26, you couldn't get me to stop talking about it. And I had nothing. I wasn't good. I didn't have a job. I didn't have a manager. But I remember the first time I met my roommate when I was 25. Shout out to Chris. He was 22 at the time. He had just graduated from college. We were living together in Crown Heights, and he was asking about comedy. And I remember he said to me, he smiled, and he was just like, "You sound so passionate about this." I've never seen people talk about it like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I guess so." But to me, it was second nature. I'm like, I'm not trying to sound passionate. This is just who I am.
Right.
And the other day, just speaking of not being able to get joy from anything.
Yeah.
The other day, I had a night off, and it's rare to have. I've been pretty busy, so it was nice to have a night off. And I was like, okay, let's do something. Let's hang out. Let's hang out with people, because I have friends here. I joked I don't have friends here, but I do have some friends here that I can reach out to. And I asked myself, I said, okay, who can I bring into this evening? Who can I be with this evening that is going to spark joy, in the words of Marie Kondo, right? Who's gonna? And I couldn't name one person.
Wow, really?
I couldn't name. I was like, okay, and then I started playing this game. Okay, maybe what if I was in New York? What if I was in New York? I started broadening my scope. I was like, what if I was in Japan? What if
I was in space? What if I was in space?
Anywhere. What if I was God and I could summon anybody? Who do I want to be with right now that would bring me joy? Platonically, obviously. This isn't like a sex thing.
No,
just
for
platonically.
Sure. Yeah, just to have a good time, right?
And I was like, no one. And you know what I fucking did? I went to go see Venom, which was a terrible movie.
Wow.
And afterwards, I went to go get a massage because my back was hurting.
Right.
And then I got home and I bought crypto. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing?
What happened? This is straight. What are you, Andrew Yang? What the fuck is this?
I don't know what's happening. I bought crypto, and I was like, whatever. Life doesn't matter. I'll buy some fucking crypto, and I'm making some money off of it, luckily. But I don't know. I'm buying crypto, Mike. This is a cry for help.
This is definitely a cry for help. I definitely think the rise in depression and anxiety among people directly correlates to the rise in crypto. The more the more the anxiety there is, the more crypto there is. I feel you 100%, man. When did you start noticing this?
Not that long ago. It's pretty recent. Maybe a month, six weeks ago.
So coinciding a little bit with you going to LA.
Yes.
Okay.
I think a lot of it is living alone. A lot of it is
just being alone. Yeah.
Being alone and just going to the office maybe.
Yep.
I thought that would help, but I don't know. I think a lot of it is just spending a lot of time with yourself.
Yes.
And
100%.
When I was back in New York for a week last week.
Yeah, how was that?
I had a lot of fun. It really, really re-energized me.
That's good.
I don't know. Maybe it's the fucking poor air quality. I'm literally trying to blame it on everything else but depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
I think but I can feel right now it's just been like this for a week. There's something in my head.
Yes.
It's just I feel
a fog,
very like a fog.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily getting in the way of me doing my job. But it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And you know what the saddest realization I had the other day? I was just like, well, how could I be that sad? Because I do comedy for a living.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I'm writing dick jokes for money.
Yeah.
But I had this realization that laughter does not equal happiness.
Yeah.
It made me really sad. You could be so sad and I'll still laugh my ass off if a joke is funny.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that, I don't know if it's just me thing or a comedy thing, but that part of my life has detached from.
Yes.
I don't know. It's like a separate space in my heart. It's a separate space in my head.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times laughter is associated with joy for most human beings.
Yeah.
But for me, because I've
you do it
chosen to make it a
professionally.
professional
Right.
job, it's not. It doesn't relate.
It's not connection.
You could murder my entire family.
Yeah.
And I'll still be like, Joe Biden's eating ice cream at the White
Yeah,
House.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I could do it.
It's a job.
And it's,
yeah. Totally.
And not just the writing thing, just my comedy, stand-up, podcast, everything. It's become
Right.
a professional thing. And
Yeah.
that was so sad
Yes.
to disassociate laughter with joy. Those are not the same thing for me anymore.
Yeah, I have, 100% that, I think what you've sort of described is like right along with what I understand, depression, anxiety. And just a quick disclaimer, Fumi and I, we are not mental health professionals. If you feel like you need to see someone, please do. Fumi and I both do separately, and, I think that's important. But, from what I have experienced also, and from what I understand about depression, it's not even necessarily about being sad, it's about like nothing.
No.
You don't feel anything.
It's about nothing.
You feel like nothing, right? And you almost sometimes are like, remember we got in a fight like a couple weeks ago. We got in a fight a couple weeks ago. It's on the Patreon bonus episode. If you go check out patreon.com/Asian-Not-Asian-Pod. We talk about this, and we got in a fight. Fumi and I got in a fight, and you were saying that you will almost like the fight because then at least you could feel something because you were mad at me.
And that scared me too.
Yeah,
and,
because that's right. For you to feel something, you have to go to that extreme, right? That feels like doesn't feel good.
And honestly, that was probably the first red flag. Is that was very uncharacteristic of me to enjoy fighting with somebody because I don't.
Yeah, I don't like doing that either.
I'm not a sick fuck, but. That I didn't enjoy arguing with you,
right?
But I did get
at least
you
knew.
Like, my hands were shaking and I was like, ooh, yes, right. Emotion.
Well,
and I was like, ew,
yeah.
Like that's not me. That's not happy-go-lucky Fumi.
Yeah.
That's not me at all. And I'm
yep.
finding myself in these uncharacteristic situations, and it's like that's very scary to me.
I think this is all stuff I went through, during the pandemic, even recently. I would say only very recently have I kind of been feeling a lot better. The pandemic lifting a little bit has helped that. But for a while, there was this whole thing where, like what you were saying with your day off, right? I feel there are times when you just need to have like, you're just vibing, you're just like hanging out. What's your favorite vibing thing, right? Like I used to love, like I would get home from comedy, hang out with Gina a little bit. She goes to bed, and I stay up and I watch music videos. And I watch like fucking reggaeton music videos. I'm drinking my like tequila, and I'm just by myself. I'm vibing, and I tried doing that maybe like a couple of months ago, and I realized I didn't enjoy it nearly as much.
Oh God,
it just so wasn't
sad.
there. It wasn't
that
there.
That was your favorite thing.
It was my favorite thing. I love doing it, and all the things I used to love doing weren't there anymore. I used to, whatever it is, like watching, YouTube videos of people like playing video games, or or stand up in some ways, or whatever, and the it's like a twofold punch because. On the one hand, first there's the fact that you don't have that joy anymore for that thing, and then the realization that you're afraid now that what if I don't have joy, I don't feel joy anymore ever again. There's like that terror that like you don't know where to go, and I 100% felt that way. I think sometimes you telling me this, I always wonder, is this like a burnout situation? Is this like, is it like a depression situation? We opened this up with kind of talking about like a 1/3 life crisis, because I do think there's something in your 30s, like there's a part of it which is straight up, I think, biochemical. I remember, when you're in your 20s, everything is joy. Everything is like the max.
Everything is joy.
Everything is the max. I mean, I'll be hanging out sometimes like in Williamsburg, I'm walking around and I'll see these clumps of people of like 20-year-olds, and like 20-year-olds roll in groups of 15 deep, and everything's just like the awesomest, right? The walk from one bar to the next bar is like the best thing you fucking ever. It's the best fucking thing.
Oh my God. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And now I haven't felt like that in forever. And you know, like where I'm going from one bar to the next. First of all, going from one bar to the next, man, I'm so tired, man. We got to Google this. I don't want to just wander around. So there is like something where you transition from your 20s to your 30s. For whatever reason, like the peaks are not as peaked. You know what I'm saying? Like the peaks in your emotion aren't as peaked. I don't know, whatever that is. And then second, just physically speaking, you get more tired. One thing that happens is I've noticed is when you get a hangover. When I was in my 20s and get a hangover, I was like, oh, I'm hungover. Let's eat like hamburgers. Yeah. And in your 30s, when you get a hangover, you get like emotional hangovers. You have that joke where you're like, oh, was I a good son? Like I would feel emotional hangover where I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing with my life? Did I do something stupid yesterday? You know, you feel like this other thing on top of the physical thing, and like that really sucks. So you're playing with that, and then the fact that your mind knows that that's how your body's reacting, that adds on another stressor, because now you're like, my body's changing, bro, you know?
Let's talk about the gift that keeps on giving. Hello Tushy Bidet. It cleans your butt way better than wiping, cuts your toilet paper use down by 80%, saves trees, and all the thousands of gallons of water used to convert them into toilet paper. And it comes with a book full of poop jokes. My butt is in love. Guys, here at Asian Not Asian, we love Tushy. Mike and I both use it. And if you're wondering, guys, why are you guys always in sync? Why are you guys, the banter is amazing. You guys are so freaking funny. What is your secret? Well, it's because we have clean butts. That is our secret. The Hello Tushy Bidet washes your bum with fresh water for a way better clean than toilet paper. Make the restroom your best room with the complete Tushy system, including the Tushy Bidet attachment ottoman. It's got an ottoman, oh my God. Toilet brush and Tushy stand and tissues. Join the millions of happy Hello Tushy customers right now who take care of their Yule logs the dignified way. Give the gift of a clean bum to yourself and your loved ones this holiday season and get 10% off plus free shipping right now at hellotushy.com/ANA. That's hellotushy.com/ANA for 10% off and free shipping. Mike, you know me.
I know you.
And if you know me, you know that I love, I take care of my body.
You do.
I take care of my mouth. I love clean habits. I'm a clean habit guy.
You're a very clean
floss
Asian.
Like a mother. Beep. And I brush my teeth like a mother. Beep. And if you're listening to this and you're also really anal about your mouth, that means you care about oral care routine, which means you're going to love Quip. The Quip electric toothbrush is loved by over 7 million mouths, including mine, and has time-sonic vibrations with 30-second pulses. Plus pulses to guide a dentist's recommended 2-minute clean. A lightweight and sleek design with no wires or bulky chargers to weigh you down.
On top of your brushing, you can upgrade your Quip with a new smart motor. This thing has a motor. Track and improve your brushing with the free Quip app. Earn amazing rewards like free refills, products, even Target gift cards.
Wow.
Amazing.
Beyond the brush, Quip has everything you need to build a complete routine, including anti-cavity toothpaste that helps prevent cavities, and 2 ways to floss. Floss string that expands to clean, and reusable floss pick that replaces over 180 disposable picks with every refill.
In addition to brush heads, Quip also delivers fresh floss, toothpaste, mouthwash, and gum refills every 3 months from $5. Shipping is free, so you can save money and skip the hustle and bustle of in-store shopping.
With stylish and affordable electric brushes starting at just $25, you won't be paying through the teeth for better oral health.
If you go to getquip.com/Asian right now, you'll get your first refill free. That's your first refill free at getquip.com/Asian. Spelled GETQUIP.com/Asian. Quip, the good habits company.
Just to go back to the 20s where everything is a joy.
Yes.
Now that I'm thinking about it, and it's you know, it's so funny because okay, when we started this podcast, I think I was like 27, right?
Yeah.
Like
maybe
I was like in my mid-20s,
Yeah.
and there were I don't think I ever explicitly said this to you, but like there were so many things you did that I just did not understand. And now that I'm 31, I'm turning 32 like next week or something like November 7th. And so I think I'm like beginning to understand sometimes I picture like, what would I do if like a fucking 25-year-old kid was telling me what to fucking do right now? I'd be like, fuck off, bro. But like that's the situation you were in. I feel like it's a little bit different now because I'm a little older, and I think that makes a difference. But like, I mean, why else would I remember I would take the express bus. You know the big bus in New York, the X bus?
Yes. Yeah.
It goes all the way to the Bronx.
Yes.
I would take that. I would go do a show in the Bronx, deep in the Bronx, for like an all Puerto Rican Dominican crowd.
Yeah.
It was like a Latina show. I don't know why I was on the show, but I was like so excited. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is so fucking cool
Yeah.
that I'm gonna bomb in front of all these Spanish people. And I did bomb, and I was still like, this is so fucking
This is
cool.
great. This is awesome.
I just thought it was so cool that I got to expose myself in front of this new community and
Yeah.
like meeting new people, and like I would never do that now.
Yeah.
And I realize it's not because I think I'm better. It's this chemical thing you're talking about.
There's something. Yeah, go ahead.
There's something happening. Yeah, I think I have so many jokes about being 30 and how you're like you have diarrhea now, blah 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 blah. And now I think my body's like other parts of my body is. I use the word changing, but what's really happening is deteriorating, I think.
Yeah.
And,
Deteriorating. Yeah.
It's a wild ride. I think I just don't know how to deal with it. I'm literally blaming everything else but depression, anxiety. I'm like drinking more water. I'm like, it's gotta be water.
It's gotta be water. Yeah.
It's kind of like I always have a joke that I say like I'm always hard and I've never not been hard.
Yes.
But it feels like my emotional dick is not working. And it's
Yeah.
like, come on, you used to love this. You used to love doing this. You know,
Have you had the thing where you're like not as horny? That's like a thing that will happen later.
I think that'll happen later. You know what's so sad? Oh God, this is like some real deep shit that I should probably be talking to a therapist about and not you. But
Okay.
So there are 3 red flags. One was me fighting with you and
Yeah.
getting a throw out of it. That was disgusting.
Yeah.
2 was I had a day off and I couldn't find. I didn't want to be with anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't think
Yeah.
anyone
Yeah.
in this world could bring me joy.
Yeah.
The 3rd thing happened yesterday where I was on porn. I was like watching porn.
Yep.
And then I had the sound on and I opened up a new tab and I just started doing something else.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
Yeah.
I was like I'm like trying to get boots or something, and I just had the porn in the background as a sound.
Just a background porn. Yeah.
Because in a weird way, porn, again, like a drug, is you want something, right? You're
Yeah.
horny.
Yeah.
There's desire.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I just have it in the background because I just want to feel horny a little bit. I want that high.
Yeah.
And so I just have it on.
Yeah.
So I'm always like I always have a little half chub going, but I'm trying to buy new boots on ASOS, you know? But like I just want to want something.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
but I've never done that before, and I didn't even think it was weird while I was doing it. But then when I shut my computer, I'm like, did I just fucking listen to porn like it's a fucking podcast?
Yeah. Like it's a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like disgusting.
Right.
Disgusting.
Yo.
So that's where I'm at right now. Man.
It
a
really
struggle.
is about a feeling where, and again, going back to the third life crisis, where your peaks are not peaks anymore. It's really hard to reach those peaks. And I think it's, the dangerous thing can happen where you in order to chase those peaks again, you like do more extreme things. Like you drink way more or go and do risky activities or whatever the fuck it is. and obviously I don't think, people should be doing that. But like, to come to terms with it and to see that happen, to realize it's happening is alone already a stressful thing, let alone the actual thing happening. So, I think, I would, love to hear what people have to say about this. I know our demo is like is kind of 20s to 40s, and so I think this is kind of like people are experiencing this or going to experience this. A lot of our fans talk about this is also, I think, when people start doing career changes. If you want to, because you feel like, okay, I've got to do this thing now, otherwise I'm going to lose all my energy. And that was another thing I wanted to talk to you about that you brought up, was you feel like you have a battery, right? You and I were both comedians and creators, I guess. And that takes a certain amount of energy and a certain kind of energy, different from like physical fitness or even the energy to like emotional energy. It's like this creative energy. And you've been talking about how, you know, you have a creative battery and you feel like your creative battery, you know, it's being depleted faster or differently than from your 20s.
Yeah, I think that also, it's all fucking related. I think recently, because of my job, you know, I come home and I'm like pretty tired creatively.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like doing any more comedy, to be completely honest, afterwards.
Yeah.
Because I'm like pretty tired.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to be funny for like 10 hours a
Yeah.
day and failing. And it's just like, you know, it's kind of like, this isn't the right analogy, but like imagine a 10-hour long open mic, right? It's just like, it's like a lot.
Too long. Yeah.
So then I have a hard time like getting motivated to like write or go do stand-up, write a new stand-up joke.
Yep.
And do the podcast. And sure, I still like want to do all these things, and I still show up, and that's very important.
Yeah.
Showing up is very important.
Just showing up, yep.
But before, I don't know if it's because I never really cared about my day job. If you're a long listener of the podcast, you know that when we started this podcast, I had one job, then I had a different job, and then I worked at Comedy Central. But when I had those marketing jobs, I really, really hated it. I really didn't give a shit. And I feel at the end of the day, at 5 p.m., 6 p.m., I don't even call it the creative battery. I call it like the give a shit battery, where I feel like creative is for sure. There is like a creative battery, but for me, again, it's not about how creative you're being. It's just more about like, can you care about this?
Yes.
You know? And my give a shit battery was full
Right.
at 6 p.m. in 2017 because I did not give a shit at all
Right.
about my job. And I lived like that for years because I used all that energy into comedy. And that's sort of how I got to where I am now. And that's fine. I wouldn't do it a different way. But because I'm using the give a shit, because now I care about my job. For the first time in my life, I actually give a shit about my job. I'm using a lot of that during the day. So when I come home, I don't have a lot left.
Yep.
And it's sad because I'm like, oh, I used to love doing this stuff after work.
Yeah.
Like, this is where I fucking thrive after work.
Yeah.
Right? Remember from 2016 to whatever the fuck? This is Fumi time, bro.
Oh my
after
God.
6 p.m.
Loved it.
That's what I'm going crazy, you know? But I can't perform like that anymore. And it made me sad.
Yeah.
Because I look back on those times I fondly, you know, like leaving work and then going to a mic and then coming back and like writing or like trying to come up with like, oh, who should we book for the guest? I mean, I used to edit the podcast myself.
Yeah, you used to edit the podcast.
Yeah, like all that. Like this is before we had any help. It was just me and you. Like me and you were just trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. And that I use a lot of my give a shit energy on that. And to feel it depleting. I don't know. I don't even know how to get a new battery. You know, I need to go to a Genius bar for humans or something. It's really it's sad because it's this thing you loved, and you're looking at it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the joy thing we were talking about earlier. And you're like, you just don't. It's not that you don't care. You can't care as much.
Yeah.
And that's so hard to face because you're like, come on. It's like the boner thing. It's like, come on, like get hard.
Yeah.
Get hard.
It used to be.
But I
easier.
can't. Or it's like a half chub, you know?
Yeah. It's, I think that's like the reality to, you know, if you know, I think that a lot of people talk about like what happens when you go for your dream job or whatever your dream creative thing, whatever your dream profession is, right? Whether that is like a creative thing or not, you know, it could be whatever, working at a bank, and then that slams into the reality of actually doing the work, you know, and how different that maybe you that kind of imagined or whatever, and the reality of it. And, you know, I think the reality of like a lot of even like the coolest job ever is still a job. You know, because you're still doing it for someone else. You know, I always think about that. Like you're like selling your skill. You know, you're locked into capitalism and you're selling your skill to someone else. So that there's always that aspect. You could be doing the coolest thing in the world. You're flying fighter jets in order to get to an island orgy. You know, that's what you do for your day job. But in the end of the day, it's still a job. You still have to do it. And so there's like the weirdness of that. And on top of that, you have to be a creative. You're like creating things. And so the thing that you want to do, it's like you were saying before with your humor thing and your joy thing are no longer connected together. You know, it's like, it's like you got some sort of like crazy brain injury where, you know, you can't tell an apple unless you like like lick it or something like that. You know, there's some weird thing in your brain now where you can't do it. I remember, you know, for my day job, I do a creative thing. And as I would leave my job, I'd leave because my job is near Grand Central, and I'd walk through Grand Central, and there's all these like big screens with like, you know, company slogans on them or whatever, like advertising. And I would literally have to close my eyes and not read it because I was so tired of thinking about advertising. You know, I would just like look away. I couldn't look at it.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my God, I can't think of any more like brand messages for a little bit. And then I would get to the open mic, and that would like transition me into like another thing. I have to say too, and you know, I know different people have different ways of like kind of getting out of a funk or whatever. And actually don't want this podcast to be about that. I don't even want solutions. I'm taking this from I'm taking a note from the Feeling Asian podcast. Because when I was on there last time, you know, you and I, we're always trying to find solutions, right? We're like consulting Asians, right? We're always trying to find answers. But for them, they don't give a shit about answers. They just want to talk about it, which is like such a mind-blowing thing for me. I was like, yo, this is such a good non-masculine energy that I need to like learn about more. Like, you know, I'm always trying to fix things, and we shouldn't have to fix things all the time. So I don't want to have like any solutions for you. I think it's good that you're just you're even talking about it. And so I think, but you know, hey, the other day I went to an open mic. I know you're gonna make fun of me. I didn't tell you because I knew you were gonna make fun of me. But I went to this open mic, and I was sitting there, and I was like, look at all these people and how much they care. This is so amazing, you know. And it was cool to see, and I actually remembered the real value of an open mic was seeing people, and then also you get a lot of ideas from watching other people's sets. You're like watching, and I wrote down tons of shit. Like, you know, I'll write jokes all day long in my notebook, but usually on like any given day, I'll have like maybe 1 or 2 new premises a week. But after sitting at that open mic, I had like 6. You know, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And it was just like it was a nice reminder of like the process that we had gone through, you know?
Yeah.
And we've said this before, like, you know, ultimately the only thing that your job or whatever, the thing you should enjoy is the process, right? If you like the process, and you still like it, then you're still kind of want to do it. And if you don't like the process, then that's like another issue, and we should talk about that. But I think, you know, I feel you, man. You know, and can I say too that it's actually kind of reassuring that you're a little depressed, because like one of the things that has always been really stressful with me was like trying to keep up with you, and I think I have pretty good cardio for an old guy, so that's like that was my thing, and I was like, dude, Fumi is like he's like an unquenchable beast, you know. You're like the comedy Terminator, and I was like you know, like Sarah Connor running away from you, and I was like I was trying to survive. And for me, you know, I'm older than you, so I had my strategies for how to like manage this. But at a certain point during the pandemic, we had this thing going, this podcast, we had comedy, we still had some stand-up comedy. We were writing this thing together, if you remember, this like cartoon. We were writing that together. Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
Which was fucking a beast. You know, that was so much work. And then, you know, we also had our like respective jobs at that time. Yeah. And, you know, something's got to give. And I don't think you can keep doing that sustainably for a long time, especially after you like cross over into your third life crisis. You know, you can't burn all of those things at the same time and like come out of that okay at the end, you know. So
yeah, I guess like that's an excellent point. I think I'm still living life like I'm 25, and not like in a sexy way. I'm not doing any drugs.
No.
I like in like a salaryman way, you know.
Yeah.
But like a salaryman who's 25 is different from a salaryman who's 35. You know, I gotta take it down. I gotta change the gears a little bit.
You gotta switch gears.
Take it easy. Switch gears. Take it easy. Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's so funny because this all just comes down to like, you're just getting old, man.
It is part of it. It is a huge part of it, man. It's a big part of it. You know, it's something I noticed. You know, now that I'm like, I don't want to say how old I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready to tell you guys how old I am, but I feel a step down for mine too, from the next phase. I'm not going through a defined crisis. I just was depressed for a little bit, just regular depression. I didn't have any like milestone-related depression, I guess you could say. But love to hear from the fans. Hey, leave a comment if you've ever had...
Leave a comment if you're a YouTube
for real.
person.
So leave a comment if you've ever had one-third life depression or one-third life crisis. I think
What's your
I think
crisis?
It's a thing. What's your crisis? Tell us. We want to know, So, yeah, I mean, we'll keep tabs on what's going on. But like, I think it's good at least that you acknowledge that something's happening, because I think for a lot of people, like our parents and whatever, the other generations, there was not really like an avenue for you to acknowledge or talk about this other than drinking and watching TV, So
yeah,
or working even more. Yeah.
Honestly, when we were going through the outline, it was a 50-50. I almost didn't tell you about this today, and I was gonna just pretend and do all these weird like, what's your favorite Marvel character with you?
No,
but something in me was like, I can't. I don't have the energy to fake it. Like that's what it was.
I can tell. I can tell, dude. People are always telling me, asking me when I'm doing shows and stuff like, hey, you miss Fumi and stuff like that. And like, it is a bummer, especially creatively, not having you around, because there were so many times where I would text you or FaceTime you or not FaceTime you, but like, message you and be like, hey, what do you think about this joke? Or should we try this tonight for this thing? And we would go real hard all the time. We would always be working on something. And now I can tell like there's a shift in you just at the very minimum, because I think now you're like a professional. So that alone I know is going to have an impact on, sort of your, outlook on life. Yeah. And so it's good that you're telling us. So, because then and again, I'm not solution oriented, but at least now we know.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
Now we know.
Yeah. That's how we know. Now we know. Yeah.
Anyways, wow. Hey, well, sometimes these solo episodes can be good, Sometimes, sometimes we want to ask about, hey, what was it like growing up in a fucking reservation in Oklahoma? And sometimes we want to talk about how I listened to audio of porn, and that's enough for me.
Yo, that's such a good one, dude. Like, fucking audio porn podcast would be... It's got to exist. No, maybe it doesn't exist. I have no idea. It's got to exist.
It's not like... I picked the ones where I thought would be quite enjoyable with just audio. There's like a compilation where girls are screaming, "I'm coming," and I was like, that sounds like an actionable one,
you know what this is? That's like you know how I'm always listening to Chill Hop, the little Nujabes, little Chill Hop Nujabes.
Yeah, Chill Hop with the girl studying in the
the girl studying. Just imagine that girl though is instead there's a woman masturbating, and it's just, hey, that's a cool energy too. Why not?
It's a cool energy.
Yeah.
It's a cool energy. Anyways, Anos, thank you so much for listening to our problems. I know today's episode is a little bit different, but we hope you enjoyed it. And if you were like, hey, that was kind of weird, why don't you go back to butt stuff? Please come to Hack City, our next stand-up comedy show, which will be nothing like this episode.
No.
The next one's going to be November 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern at Caveat, which is a comedy venue in the Lower East Side. So that should be more convenient for a lot of our Manhattan and Brooklyn fans out there. So please come out. Tickets are available in the bio link over Instagram, or just go to asian.asianpod.com, or I'll put a link in the episode description of this podcast.
So there's also, this will be only for this one because it's at Caveat and they have the technology for it, but there is a live stream also. So if you're not in the New York City tri-state area,
if you're not in New York City,
but you want to check out a live stream, there are tickets for that as well. I believe they start at $10, or they are $10, but you'll be able to get a ticket for that, and then you'll be able to watch on a live stream again, because we can do it at Caveat. Usually at other locations we don't have the technology support to do this. People always ask us, can you get a live stream going? And there's like all sorts of little hurdles, but the big one is like technology. So if you want to check out the live stream, it'll be live and it's up on the link as well, and you can check that out, and tickets are available.
Hell yeah. And please follow us on all the social platforms at Asian.AsianPod. I'm also on there at the Fumi Abe. That's TheFumiAbe.
You can find me on Instagram, that's Mike Nguyen, at Nice Pants Bro.
I think that's it. I mean, if you're an iPhone owner, listener, leave a goddamn review. Just fucking do it.
Just do it.
We need you.
Do it.
We gotta get to 1,000. Just do it. We're at like 916.
Yeah. Do it. And if you're on YouTube, let us know what you think in the comments. Also, this is another thing. Tell us what other podcasts you'd like us to be on, because we can bring this energy either together or separately. You know,
yeah.
like we're Christian missionaries. Okay, we can go
Yes,
to other
yes,
places
yes,
and bring
yes.
the good news. You want us to go on to another comedy podcast? We can do that. If there's another Asian podcast, we can do that. If you wanted me to go on like a fucking podcast where I talk about jujitsu, I'd love to do that. So send us some links to where you would think we'd have fun.
Yes,
and we'd love to hear that.
Yes, and not to be a diva, but they can't be like brand new podcast with 5 downloads. It's
Yeah,
gotta be
it has
like a
to
real one.
has a
I'm
little
so
bit of
sorry. It has to be,
following.
like
Something.
a little following.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this was cool. Anals, thank you so much for tuning in. We love you. We really do love you. We hope you know that.
You really do.
Next week we'll have a guest. So until then, I don't know. Go to a therapist. Listen to porn.
Go to therapist.
Find
try
joy.
to find some joy. All right, that's it.
All right. Bye.
Bye.